Shocking new report reveals Russian troop losses in Ukraine war nearing 200,000. Russia strikes again. Two S-300 missiles land in heart of Kramatorsk, Ukraine. Ukraine braces for new Russian offensive as battle rages on eastern front lines. Enjoy watching and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on important news. The number of Russian troops who have either died or were left wounded in the continuing war in Ukraine is nearing 200,000, according to a report that cited U.S. and Western officials. On Thursday, the New York Times reported that senior U.S. officials and Western diplomats said the number has climbed above the 100,000 figure given in November last year. In that month, General Mark A. Milley, chairman of the U.S. Joint Chief of Staffs, gave the last public estimate provided by the Biden administration. He said more than 100,000 troops on each side had been killed and wounded since the war began. I would say it's significantly well over 100,000 now, Mr. Milley was quoted as saying at a news conference last month in Germany. He added that the Russian toll included regular military and also their mercenaries in the Wagner Group. This week, senior U.S. officials said they believed the number for Russia was closer to 200,000, according to the report. On January 22, General Eirik Kristoffersen, Norway's defense chief, said on Norwegian TV that estimates suggested 180,000 were either dead or wounded on Russia's side, while the tally was 100,000, including 30,000 civilian deaths, for Ukraine. Mr. Kristoffersen said to the New York Times over email that there is much uncertainty regarding these numbers, as no one at the moment are able to give a good overview. They could be both lower or even higher. According to Colin H. Call, the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, the Russian military is running out of critical supplies and replenishment. They're running low on artillery. They're running low on standoff munitions, and they are substituting by sending convicts in human waves into places like Bakhmut and Soledar, he was quoted as saying. Russia's war in Ukraine will complete a year on February 24th. According to Kusti Salm, Estonia's deputy defense minister, Russia was better able to stand its losses than Ukraine. At a press briefing in Washington this week, he said, in this particular area, the Russians have employed around 40,000 to 50,000 inmates or prisoners. They are going up against regular soldiers, people with families, people with regular training, valuable people for the Ukrainian military. So the exchange rate is unfair, he added. It's not one-to-one because for Russia, inmates are expendable. From an operational perspective, this is a very unfair deal for the Ukrainians and a clever tactical move from the Russian side. Kramatorsk, Ukraine. Russia is bringing its war against Ukraine closer to the industrial cities of Donetsk with a series of missile strikes against densely populated areas. On Thursday, two S-300 missiles were fired at the center of the city of Kramatorsk, landing about a minute apart and less than 100 meters from a CNN team. An earlier Iskander missile strike had killed 4 people and hospitalized several more in the same area, an entirely residential zone with shops, a hospital, and a clinic. One of those killed was a well-respected school principal, Hanna Valerievna, weeks before her 48th birthday. Rescue crews still at the scene had no warning of Thursday's attack. CNN witnessed the second missile's last moments in flight before a large fire erupted and smoke billowed into the air. There were no further fatalities, though at least 5 civilians were injured. Some people ran in panic from the scene, others seemed fatalistic. Of course, we are frightened, said Natalia, a middle-aged woman cowering in a doorway. But what option do we have? The military governor in Donetsk, Pavlo Kyrylenko, says there is one option: leave. The occupiers will not leave Donetsk region alone until we drive them out of our land. Until then, all civilians must evacuate the region. It is a matter of life and death. But his appeal sounds to some like a broken record. Many Ukrainians in the Donetsk region can't afford to leave their homes or fear being abandoned in a far-off place away from their familiar community. Ukrainian officials estimate that about half of Kramatorsk's pre-war population of nearly 150,000 have left. Tens of thousands remain in this industrial city, a center for mechanical engineering and steelmaking. The Kramatorsk strikes follow another against the nearby city of Konstantinivka at the weekend, in which 3 people were killed. Russian forces trying to encircle the city of Bakhmut a few miles to the east may now be seeking to soften up the bigger cities nearby. Throughout this campaign, Russian forces have combined attacks against Ukrainian forces and infrastructure with seemingly random strikes on urban areas. This may be in part because many of their missiles are not accurate. The Kh-22, designed to sink aircraft carriers, killed dozens of people in strikes in Dnipro last month and the city of Kremenchuk last August. The S-300, designed to take down combat aircraft, has been crudely repurposed to hit ground targets. But it may also be because part of the Russian strategy in this invasion has been to try to sap the morale of ordinary Ukrainians. Kramatorsk's mayor alluded to that Thursday, saying, "When you see the ruins of the central building in the heart of your city, you lose heart. But now there is no time for that. They are trying to destroy us." Russia's Ministry of Defense said the strikes against Kramatorsk had destroyed a long-range HIMARS artillery system. But it is inconceivable that the Ukrainians would keep such a high-value weapon in such a public place given its size. They have gone to great lengths to disguise their locations, even building replicas. The strikes this week come as a furious battle rages a few miles further east, with Ukrainian artillery and infantry trying to prevent the Russians from encircling Bakhmut and taking the high ground that would make places like Kramatorsk much more vulnerable. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Friday, Russia is now concentrating its forces and preparing for an attempt at revenge not only against Ukraine, but also against free Europe and the free world. He has said he believes a new Russian offensive, predicted by his commanders in interviews in December, has already started. Separately, the Ukrainian military's general staff said Thursday that Russian forces continue active reconnaissance and preparation for an offensive in several directions. That message is echoed in Ukrainian bunkers the breadth of the battlefield. In a 10-day tour of frontline positions, CNN has heard multiple Ukrainian commanders say they have seen the Russians bring forward heavier weapons, long-range artillery, and multiple rocket launchers, MLRS. On Wednesday, in trenches near the town of Krasnohorivka, the sound of Russian Grad launchers pierced the air every few minutes. Ukrainian units are seeing more Russian units arriving, a mix of those mobilized last autumn, fighters of the private military company Wagner, Chechen groups, and more professional regular units. Ukrainian intelligence believes that the poor state of Russian military equipment will force the Russian high command to mass forces so as to outnumber Ukrainian defenders. But Ukrainian military officials have also told CNN they have counteroffensive plans of their own.